Welcome to Between the Lines from First and Long College Football, our weekly best bets in college football betting. And now your hosts, Marcus and Mason.
What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. As always, I'm your co-host, Marcus, joined by my co-host, Mason. And we have got Week 8 best bets against the spread, against the point totals. We've got some half totals that we feel good about this week. It's our weekly best bet show, Between the Lines, every Thursday here on the First and Long College Football Show. And we're so glad that you have chosen to join us and talk about some best bets and try to get some bets in the window before these games get going. I think we actually got some college football going on tonight here on Thursday night, and we're starting a little later than what we would like to, but hey, that's life. You know what? You just keep chopping. Mason, how are you today, buddy? You ready to lock it up? We've got some best bets that we're feeling good about. It's last week was a really good week for us, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, got positive after a slide for a couple of weeks for me, and back not quite 500, still 4 games under, but inching my way forward, and I'm hoping that this week I can get there. Maybe go +4 this week again, and I'll be back to 500. That'd be a good week, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and you guys watching, if you're watching live right now, or you're tuning in here in a few minutes, or watching it tomorrow morning on your way to work, whatever, holler at us in the comments section. Let us know what your best bets are for the weekend. I'm curious. I feel like sharp betters and casual betters are on a lot of different pages this weekend, as I've come to kind of figure out as I've researched some of these bets. And I feel like I got a good batch of them here, but I'd love to hear from you guys and what you guys are betting on this weekend. So let us know in the comment section if you're watching live. Let us know that you can hear us good and everything sounds and looks good. We certainly do appreciate you doing that. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't done that already. We would certainly appreciate it. Yeah, Mason. So I am currently 33, 25, and 1. Last week was a 7-1 week for me. Kansas State allowed Colorado last week to cover there at the very end of the game. It made me sick. I was that close to an undefeated week, but that would just be being greedy, and that just wouldn't even be right to go undefeated there. Imagine if I parlayed all those picks, right? And I got down to the last game on Saturday night. That game started at like 10 o'clock at night, and I would have been watching that thing on pins and needles. If I would have parlayed that sucker, and I would have went to bed so upset on Saturday. So I'm glad I didn't do that, and we wouldn't advise you to do that anyway here on this betting show. We'll give you some good betting advice, and one of them is don't parlay, guys. I know y'all love to do that. Don't do it. There's a good tip to start the week off. All right, let's see if we can get some a couple of winning weeks put together here. As we always do, we'll talk about the big games first, and let's talk about the big Kahuna, the biggest of them all so far this weekend, or as far as this weekend goes. Georgia at Texas. Do you got any plays on this game this weekend?
I do. I do. I thought about laying the points with Texas at I believe it's at 4.5 right now, and I really considered that because my thought process was, no matter what, I walk away that game a winner, right? Because either my team wins or my bet wins, and I thought, well, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Let's try to get 2 wins here. I'm going for the total at 55.5. I'm gonna shoot over that. I think when you look at both of these offenses, they're clicking right now. The passing attacks are flowing for both teams. We saw a little bit of a rusty start for Quinn Ewers last week. Looking to see him get back on the right page with his receivers and get going from start to finish in this football game. And then the same can be said for Georgia. I think last week against Mississippi State, we saw Georgia put up, I think, 21 points in that first half and kind of got going early in that game on offense. I think with Texas not really seeing an offense anything close to resembling what Georgia brings in this game, they're going to be taken aback. Their defense is going to be taken aback a little bit by this Georgia offense. So I think that there is potential for a fast start, and fast starts in college football usually lead to an over. So give me the over in this one at 55.5.
I like where your head's at there. I have a couple of plays on this game, and so let me kind of explain myself. I had it narrowed down to three different plays that I liked on this football game, and I whittled it down to two from three. One of the three was over 56.5, which is what you took. Or maybe you got a better number. Anyway, I'm not taking that total number anyway. So, um, and here's why. Here's the one thing that I can kind of think of that scared me off on that. We talked about Texas a lot in the preseason, and we talked about their what we thought was going to be a deficiency in the running back room. And I still think that there is a lack of depth in that room, but they're healthy right now. And Texas has run the ball better than what I thought they would so far this season. They've been much more balanced than I thought they would be. And with that being said, Georgia's been they've struggled to stop the run. And I know that Sark and company has watched all the film, and Steve Kwiatkowski, I know they've watched all the film, and they're going to be trying to attack the edges here on Georgia. Now, it's all going to depend on whether they're going to be able to be successful doing that, whether this over is going to hit. Because if Texas is successful running the football, especially early, then the over's not going to hit because Texas is going to play keep away, and I think that would be the smartest option for Texas in this football game, and probably the number one thing that they want to focus on early in this football game. Um, Georgia has started really slow. We've seen it over and over and over this season. Now, you're right. Georgia's offense started a little bit faster against Mississippi State and a little bit faster over the last couple of games in general. But I still, I'm still worried about Georgia in this aspect. But with them having that trend kind of going in the right direction over the last couple of games, with the way the defense has taken till the second half to make adjustments at halftime and figure out some of these offenses, I'm going to take the first half over total for the game, which is 27.5. I like it off of that key number of 28. And I think that, Georgia has just got to get to halftime not being down more than a couple of touchdowns. And I think Georgia will have a fighting chance in this football game. But they haven't started fast for the most part. We'll see how that goes. And then the first half spread in this football game, I'm going to take Texas -3 for all the same reasons. I'm going to take Texas -3 in this football game. And I'll end on this note. I totally understand why a lot of people are taking Texas at this point. Any model that you look at, I referenced this on last week's show, the 10,000 game simulation. This game, the same people that I listened to last week about the 10,000 game simulation, and I liked what they said last week. They did the same simulation on the Georgia and Texas game. Texas was winning by an average of 12 points per game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. And look, guys, every simulation is not created equal. And that's really where these simulations, you run into issues when you're using Texas's numbers from the schedule that they played so far this season. It's not Texas's fault. Their schedule, ended up not being very hard. But the fact of the matter still remains Texas has not played an offense in the top 60 in the nation this season, and barely has played a team with a defense in the top 50 in the nation this season. So you guys take that for what you will. I'm scared off a little bit on the spread overall on this football game. I think it's a lot safer and easier to predict the first half in this game. That's why I'm going to attack my rare 2-for-1. I haven't done one of those in several weeks. I'm going to 2-for-1 this thing in the first half and hopefully thread the needle, and somehow my dogs get a victory in this football game. They're going to need a lot more things to go their way this Saturday than I think Texas needs to fall their way to cover the spread there. All right, Mason, we've got the big kahuna out of the way. What about Alabama at Tennessee? Do you have a play on that game?
Yeah, I'm taking I'm taking Tennessee, the other UT, plus the points on the total game spread there. 3-point spread in this game. Tennessee gets Alabama at home. Both teams are trending in a similar fashion. With Tennessee having home field advantage, I really have this game as a pick 'em. So if you're giving me an extra 3 points to get this thing done, I'll take that value, fully understanding that Alabama could very well run away with this game. There's also the flip side of that, where I think that there's an opportunity here for Tennessee to run away with it. We've seen the rushing attack from teams really get after Alabama. We saw Rocket Sanders in South Carolina really get going in that football game. Why do we think that Dylan Sampson can't do the same thing and give his quarterback a little bit of a head start, in Nico and in his struggles lately? I think that scoring a few points before he has to really get going and pass the football could really help. And I think that Tennessee can get that done in the run game. So give me Tennessee at +3. I think that this kind of keeps it close. It keeps it lower scoring. I was thinking maybe on the over, maybe taking the overplay. But if Tennessee wants to run the football, and I think there's a good chance too that Alabama may want to try to tackle the run game a little bit more than they have in recent games due to Jalen Milroe throwing a couple picks last week. I mean, I see this being a little bit slower game, which usually means that or a faster game as far as the total time goes, which usually means that there's going to be a closer game. And no matter which way it goes, I think that Tennessee's going to be able to keep it within 3 points.
I'm with you. I've went back and forth on this game a couple of times this week. I'm on Tennessee +3 in this game as well. Alabama over the last 10 quarters has been outscored 92-73. And I'm still of the belief, and look, this actually kind of goes for both teams, Mason, here, honestly. So I'll say it really about both teams. Both secondaries are unproven. And I'll say this. I think Tennessee secondary is better than Alabama's. Now, Alabama's has been more opportunistic. They've been better at getting turnovers, but they've given up a lot of yards this season, and it really all started in that second half of the Georgia game, and it hasn't stopped. If you go back and you look at the South Carolina, the Vandy game, um, both teams were able to pass the ball pretty well in that football game. And I wouldn't consider either one to be, a prolific passing teams. South Carolina, are y'all thinking they're really good at passing the football? And my point is, I think this is a good situation, and I'm kind of banking on Nico being able to hit a couple of plays in this football game. I think there's going to be wide receivers open, and guys, I mean, let's face it, there's been some wide receivers open for Tennessee. Nico just hasn't been able to hit them deep down the field. And I think he may be able to hit a couple of those this game. And I think that'll help loosen up, the defense for Alabama a little bit and help that Tennessee offense be able to mix it up. And over the last couple of games, South Carolina, Vandy, they were both over 50% as far as third down conversions. And that just tells me right there, Alabama is allowing some yards on the ground on first and second down, allowing these teams to get ahead of the chains and make it third and short. And I think that is a recipe for Tennessee to possibly be able to have a little bit of pop here on offense this weekend. And the public perception of Tennessee right now is that the offense is not very good. And so now I think there's going to be kind of a snapback. You can't overreact in college football. I say it every week. And I think Tennessee's got a chance here. And I'm not saying they're going to score 50, but I think Tennessee has a chance to score 30. And frankly, I think the first team to 30 in this football game wins, hands down. So I think that you could see the winner in this football game, 30 points or 28 points, something like that. And the loser around 21 to 24 points, something like that. Nico's got to hit a couple of plays here, and he hasn't been good with the pressure being on him this season. We'll see if he can get it done. And as far as the over/under in that game goes, I'm totally out on that, just because of the fact that I don't fully know what's going to happen here. Like I said, I think the secondary for Tennessee is decent, and I think that their front seven is good enough to get after Milroe and not allow a lot of time for long passing routes. But while that is said, and even if Jalen Milroe does have a really bad day, Ryan Williams is just a witch, and he's going to get loose at least once or twice in this football game. Now, he didn't. I don't think he had a good game that last game they played, but Excuse me, sorry to cough in y'all's ear, but Ryan Williams is really, really tough to defend, guys. And it doesn't matter how good you are. I think he's going to be hell to deal with over the next few years. All right, man. LSU at Arkansas. You got anything on that one?
Also attacking the spread here, but I'm taking the favorites in this one. I've got LSU at -1.5. This line has moved a little bit towards Arkansas, I believe, and now it's so close to a pick 'em. I might as well go with the team that I feel better about right now, which is LSU. Coming off of the win against Ole Miss, we saw the defense click. They had 6 sacks in that game. I don't think they get to 6 against Arkansas. Ole Miss's offensive line is terrible, so that had a lot to do with their success pass rushing. But they've also got 21 sacks on the year already, so they're not exactly a team that just thrived in one example and one sample set against Ole Miss. I think that they really do have potential to get after Taylen Green in this game. And speaking of Taylen Green, I don't know what his health level looks like. He goes out against Tennessee, looked like a pretty bad leg injury, and apparently he was back this week practicing. He's going to play. I don't feel like he's going. I don't feel like they're going to want to rush him a ton, and that gives me concern when it comes to Arkansas. I love the Razorbacks. I think that they're a really good football team, but catching LSU at this moment, as long as LSU doesn't come in here sleeping and overlooking Arkansas, which I don't think they are. I really don't feel like they are. When you look at the 12-team playoff, LSU's already got the loss. I think that they really look at this opportunity and say, hey, we got a chance to win another SEC game and continue to potentially see ourselves in an SEC championship. So to me, I feel like the motivation is there for LSU in this football game. I don't think that they're going to come in here overlooking Arkansas or hungover from last week or anything like that. I think that they have a motivating factor in this football game, and I like the team a little bit more right now with the way that they're clicking. I think that Nussmeier is an absolute stud, specifically at the end of the games. We see him really, really come to life, I guess, in the fourth quarter. It seems like a real winner here, and I'm thinking that this bet will be too.
I like a lot of what you said, and what's kind of scared me off on LSU this weekend is the fact that they just came off such an emotional victory last week, and I mean we see it every single season, nearly every single week of the season. We see somebody come off of a big win and then get their tires flattened there in the very following week. And Arkansas is coming off of a big win too, but they have a bye week in between here, and I feel like that is really, really crucial. And Sam Pittman in his career so far at Arkansas, for what it's worth to you guys, this isn't a deciding factor for me betting on this game, but he's like got one loss in his career coming off a bye week. And this is at home for Arkansas. Like I said, LSU off a very, very emotional victory. I like the trajectory of LSU, and I would not be surprised to see LSU win this football game. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see Arkansas come up with an upset here. Now, let me preface what I'm about to say with this. Arkansas, whenever they've turned the football over this season, they haven't been able to win football games. I mean, go figure, right? That's pretty common sense. If you got 2-3 turnovers in a football game, you're more than likely not going to win 95% of the time. And that was the case with Arkansas early in the season, turning the ball over and not being able to punch in touchdowns. Now, they haven't exactly fixed their red zone touchdown woes or being able to, turn 3 points into 6 every single time. That not turning the ball over has been enough to really bring this team around. This is a much better Arkansas team than we've seen over the last couple of years. A lot of people don't want to give them credit because it's Arkansas, and I get it. I mean, it is Arkansas, but is Vandy the same as what they were last year? No. Is South Carolina the same as what they were last year? No. And Arkansas isn't either. I'm going to avoid the entire game spread here, and I'm going to take the first half, and it's half a point plus half a point for Arkansas in the first half. Maybe LSU comes in here and got a little bit of a slow start going on. I think Arkansas can probably come out and start off strong. Arkansas is not very deep. We've talked about the defensive line in the second half of games. It's a lot different than what's going on in the first half of games. I like this defensive line and a lot of the players on this team in general in the first, but those position groups are not very deep for Arkansas. And look, LSU's got some cracks in the foundations too, folks. I mean, it's they don't have that great of a defensive line, especially in the interior right now. There's things they don't have much of a run game. So Arkansas can dominate this game if they can run the football. I mean, that's like something very fundamental Arkansas can do to take the victory in this football game. But LSU's, like I said, gotten better every single week, just like Arkansas has. Give me that plus half a point in the first half. I think Arkansas can either be tied or take the lead to halftime, and then I will just watch the second half and just enjoy.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think that's very possible. You look at last week with LSU, they kind of came out a little bit sleepy against Ole Miss and had to come back and really take the lead at the very end of the football game. Maybe you see the same here. I could definitely see that.
And if you're betting on this game, obviously, maybe you want to wait and see what happens with Taylon Green and make sure that he takes the first snaps, and then maybe you go bet the second quarter or whatever. So you guys be smart with these bets, and the options that we have these days are not the same as what we had a couple of years ago. These first half, bets. Think about it. It's common sense. It's easier to predict the first half than it is two halves, right? I mean, it's just it doesn't mean you're not going to be wrong, but I mean, I feel like there's less probability. And how many times have you had a bet that you felt good about going into halftime and then it's ruined by the end of the second half? So I don't know. It seems like common sense to me. Bet responsibly. Don't bet any money you can't lose, guys. That's really the biggest thing. And if you don't do that, then you'll have fun. All right, Mason. Nebraska is on the road at Indiana. Last I saw, the line was -6.5 for Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
You titled this video perfectly because it piqued the interest of the Nebraska people. They didn't appreciate it much.
They came out of the woodworks, man.
They didn't appreciate it much, and somebody commented just a little bit ago, and they said, this title is absolutely insane. And I commented back, I said, made you look.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it did. And that's, guys, I mean, you're watching live, that's what the point of the title is, right? Are we supposed to use a bland, doesn't get your attention title? Do you have a pick in this game before I spill the beans on what mine is?
I'm going to wait and hold off until later on in the show and maybe pull the trigger on a pick on the money line.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, here's my thought process. And I started off the week. I've been on this Indiana train for a little while. I'll just go ahead and let you guys know that. I've been on the Indiana thing for a little bit. We've had them in our top 25 for a few weeks now. So obviously we've been pretty high on them. They haven't played a murderer's row of opponents so far this season. They have not, but they have absolutely murdered the entire row of opponents that they have played this season. So take that for what it's worth. Has Texas played a bunch of really good teams? No. But they've beat the teams that they've played really badly, and they're ranked number 1 or 2 in the country pretty much in every poll you look. So just take it for what it's worth. I think Indiana is a really good football team. And I'm not saying they're a 12-team college football playoff or winning the Big Ten, but my God, this isn't your yesteryear's Indiana. That's for sure. Love what Curt Cignetti's doing over there. Here's the problem. Nebraska, over the last couple of years, it's not just this season, but specifically, we'll talk about this season, obviously. The defense has been really good. It continues to be really good. And the defensive line, particularly for Nebraska, is very physical, has not allowed a lot this season. I mean, and they've been put in some compromised positions. The offense still sputters at times. It's a little better. It's a tick better. But the offense, I think, is still another year away from being able to, be as the best that it's been over the last few years. It's still not great. I see this game being low scoring. I see whoever wins this football game winning it 21-14 or 28-21, I think at the very most, which 28-21 is 49, which is a key number, guys. If you're betting totals, you want to stay away from a 49. Okay, you don't want to bet that because that outcome happens a lot in college football. So I believe it's set at 48.5 was the last I saw. I don't know if it's still there, but if you guys are wanting to bet the um, if you're wanting to bet the over or the under, I think now is probably the time to go ahead and do that, whichever way you feel. But I feel like it's going to be an under, and I feel like Nebraska covers the 6.5. So I'm going
I
to
can
take.
get you, speaking of the key number, I can get you 49.5. You want the under.
There you go. So y'all shop around. I mean, whichever one you like. I mean, I could see it going either way. I could see Indiana being able to score some points. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. They got a really good offense, and maybe they're able to hit a trick play or something in the first half of this game. Let me tell you something. Indiana's going to walk out there. They're going to have some swagoo going on, buddy. I'm telling you. Kurt Signetti, I don't know if you know much about him, but I mean, um, he seems really old school in his approach. But then again, it's like he's kind of flashy in the same breath. He's like, wearing what was it? He wore the shirt that's Google me or whatever. I mean, he's got some confidence, and it rubs off on the team. And they're coming in this game with some confidence. But their offense hasn't faced anything like this Nebraska defense so far this season. Give me Nebraska plus 6.5, and this is a perfect example of how my mind changes and my picks are cultivated throughout the week because I was on the opposite side of this not very long ago, guys. And I would probably wait if you're betting on that because maybe you can get it at a 7, and then worst case scenario, I feel like you get a push because there's no way that Indiana's beating Nebraska by more than 7 unless it's just an interception fest or something crazy. And Nebraska's been better at that this season than they have especially since last year. All right. There's no more big games. Where do you want to go? Give us a couple of picks because you got more picks than I do this week.
Let's follow Jeremiah's lead here. He says South Carolina versus OU. Who y'all got? I'm not touching the line on that one, but I do like the under 41.5, which I understand is a low number. But when you look at what both of these offenses have been as of late, and you couple that with how good the defenses have played as of late, I could very well see this game being played in the teens. You know what I mean? It's a low number. Principle tells me to bet over, but just looking at what these teams are right now, man, I feel like South Carolina is going to absolutely eat this Oklahoma offensive line alive. This is going to be the easiest offensive line they have faced all year, and we know how good the South Carolina defensive line is. Their defensive backs are no slouches either. They're pretty dang good. You see the interception Kilgore had against Alabama? That was incredible.
Really good safeties too. I like the safeties a lot for South Carolina.
So, and I don't feel like Oklahoma really has much of an identity in the run game due to that offensive line play for the most part. And then for South Carolina, it seems like Lenore Sellers is just keeping this team from getting in the end zone or from extending drives. He really seems like an inhibition, I guess, for this team, and he's kind of like the opposing team's best player on offense, and I like his skill set. I really like what he's got from an arm talent and his ability to run the football and things like that. But he's not processing the game well, and it's causing this team to lose some drives and to lose some football games at the end of the day. I do like Rocket Sanders, but when you look at this defensive line once again for Oklahoma, where's he going to run, man? He's not going to be blazing past Danny Stutzman. You know what I mean? Billy Bowman's going to come up and make some plays. I don't feel like there are going to be very many points scored in this one. I think it's a game of field goals, at best. And so I like the underplay here, even though it probably goes contrary to what you might believe. Just to answer your question, Jeremiah, I do like South Carolina and the money line, it's at 1.5 points right now, or excuse me, on the spread, it's at 1.5 points favoring Oklahoma. At that point, you might as well take the money line, but I think South Carolina could win this one. It is in Norman though, so that gives me a little bit of pause to bet the spread or to bet the money line. But yeah, I like the underplay here.
I got a couple picks on this one, and as I said, guys, I typically don't like to do 2-for-1s because we talked about it at the top of the show. I don't like parlays. I don't parlay any bets ever. I just don't do it ever. And doing a 2-for-1 on a game is kind of like doing a parlay without the big return, right? Because then you're wrong on one, you're wrong on two a lot of times, unless you can somehow thread the needle. And in this case, I think I have a pretty good chance at threading the needle on both of these picks and winning both of them. Or if one of them goes south, I think I could still win the other. So I feel pretty good about this one. South Carolina money line plus 105. I'll take that. Like you said, minus 1.5 or plus 1.5, whatever it was. Why would I even take those points? Just give me the plus money and give me South Carolina on the money line. And then I also like that under 41.5. I'm with you on that as well. 41 being a key number, right? So I think there's a better than much better than nothing chance that this one ends on a 41 total. So I think if you're betting the under in this game, I think you better hurry up and do it because you're about a half a point away, I think, from not wanting to bet it. I wouldn't really bet a 41 if I were you guys, unless you just know something else. But yeah, Oklahoma wide receivers are all hurt. Offensive line has been an absolute bust, like we talked about in the preseason that it would be. It's been a bad year for the Oklahoma offense, and really kind of ironic as that team has had just an absolute flip flop of identity over the last couple of years. All right. So we got that game done. I went ahead and gave one of my money line picks. I do have one more money line pick. And guys, for the show, we typically do obligatory money line, at least one money line pick. And for those, we're going for plus money. We're trying to give you guys a bet that is not negative money. It's something that you're gonna, get your bet and then, and then some back on a nice return. So
I
keep
actually
that in
did
mind.
have that on the money line as well. I'm going to go ahead and take that.
South Carolina.
Yeah, I did. It's plus 105. It's kind of a light one. I think I flip flopped on that. But yeah, I'll take that. A win's a win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Take us somewhere else, Mason. What else you got?
Oh, how about everybody's favorite team in America, Colorado, plus 3.5 against Arizona? Give me that. I like the trajectory of Colorado right now. I haven't really bet for them. I've bet against them this year and won some money, but this week I feel like the team is meshing pretty well, I would say. I do see a little bit of return on the receivers. I do see some return on the pass rush on the defense, and I feel like Arizona on the flip side is really where my bet is, right? I think that's where my bet lies here in this football game because Tetero McMillan is this offense, and I don't feel like Noah Fafita is going to be able to make the plays that are needed to win this football game by at least 3.5 points. He hasn't been playing good. He's 55% over the past 3 games. He's got 5 picks in those games, and I think all of a sudden defenses have caught up and they said, "Hey, wait a second, let's just bracket McMillan." Right, which teams have been bracketing him for the past couple of years anyways. But the difference is now Arizona doesn't have a run game to run to when they give an extra defender in the pass defense, and that takes a player out of the box. Well, Arizona hasn't been able to take advantage of that. So to me, I think that the playmakers on offense for Colorado will outweigh the playmakers on Arizona's offense, and I could see Colorado winning this one, but I don't think that Arizona wins by more than a field goal. So give me the plus 3.5 there.
I'm with you. That was the one that I was trying to remember earlier. So I'm on Colorado as well. And guys, this is a perfect example of, again, our picks being cultivated throughout the season. And we don't get zoned in on a team and just our preconceived notions take over for the whole season. I mean, we're not doing that. Colorado, I agree with you. I think they're trending in the right direction. And do they still have really bad issues? Hell yeah, they got some problems. I mean, negative 29 rushing yards last week. I mean, that is just absolutely horrible. I heard Travis Hunter should be good to go for this one. At least he'll be out there. Um, the biggest thing is Colorado being able to get some kind of handle on Tetaroa McMillan, try to keep him in front of you, tackle him. I mean, that's been the recipe, excuse me, for teams being able to keep him at bay. You can't let him get yards after the catch. That's the biggest thing is keep him in front of you, and you got to be right there to tackle him when he does catch it. He's so good that he's just one of those guys when he's on, he's just going to get his. But Noah Fafita just stares him down. I don't like this offensive line for Arizona. Um, the Big 12 just looks really, really weak to me right now. Surprisingly enough, Iowa State, BYU look like the strongest teams in that conference. I'm waiting for the hammer to fall on BYU at some point, but that's neither here nor there. Give me Colorado plus 3.5. I think they're going to be able to move the ball on Arizona, and if Colorado could ever just have some kind of run game, it sure would help them a lot. All right, what do you got else, man? Let's keep it going.
Utah taking on TCU at home. I've got Utah at -4, unless this line has changed. -3.5. I'll take it.
You're just a glutton. Right. You're a glutton for pain, aren't you, buddy?
Well, there's no more pain. You're either right or you're wrong at this point. There's no more, oh, I thought Ken Risen was going to play and it cost me a bet. At this point, he's gone. We know it's not him. So I feel like the team also, like everybody else in America, every other college football fan is saying, all right, thank God, we know who our quarterback is. Let's go figure out how to beat TCU, right? TCU does not have a good defense at all.
No, they don't.
Their offense is pretty good. It's decent. But I think that Utah's defense matches up with TCU much better than TCU's defense matches up against Utah's offense. I really feel like this decision is going to help the team out a lot, take a little bit of pressure off of everybody, the coaching staff, everybody, and allow them to go out and play football. And I think that, I don't feel like we see Utah just take over the Big 12 from here on out. That's not what I'm saying. I just feel like against TCU at 3.5 points, I really wish I could get this at 3, but at 3.5 points, I just feel like Utah is much better. And this game is in Utah. Like that's not. I don't feel like that spread is big enough. I feel like it should be 6.5 or 7. So I'll take those points.
All right, brother. I'm done with Utah, man. I can't. I can't tell you how many times that mother freaking team has burned my ass over the last 3 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable how many times I have got on that boat and have fell in the water. All right, give me another one because, like I said, you got more picks than me. First of all, let me ask you this because Jeremiah's in the chat. Do you have any picks on the Texas A&M at Mississippi State game this weekend?
I don't, man. I looked at that one really hard because I think Mississippi State for the team total is at 21.5. And, man, I kind of want to take under because of Texas A&M's defense. I kind of want to take over because I feel like Mississippi State has figured some things out on offense with Van Buren finally taking over the team and really getting clicking. But I'm gonna stay away from that. I don't really feel comfortable in the spread. I think that we're seeing Jeff Lebby's offense getting figured out by this team, and they're starting to click a little bit. And that's not so much to do with the fact that they just put up 31 on Georgia. I mean, that certainly plays a factor. But when you go back against Texas too, they were figuring some things out. Right. And I feel like Mississippi State's got some pretty good receivers as well. I think they're going under we're seeing them kind of grow up before our eyes right now. They're on an upward trajectory, but Texas A&M is too, and I feel like that too much fluctuation in both of those teams week over week has kind of led me out of this as a better. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game to watch, not necessarily competitive, but I do feel like some points will be scored in that one.
Just quickly, thoughts on that one, real quick. So, I got a lot of respect for Jeff Levy, the head coach. Let me rephrase that. That's actually kind of a loaded statement. I have a lot of respect for the way that Jeff Levy calls his offense. How about that? Because if you know Jeff Levy, there's a little bit of baggage in his history.
A lot of respect for him.
Yeah, he's been associated with a couple of things that a little suspect. But look, he's a football coach. First of all, I mean, he's not the preacher at the church. So, those two individuals are two different types of people usually. So, but my point is, look, I think that this offensive-minded head coach is starting to rub off on his team a little bit. The record doesn't show it. Go look back at some of the things that Mississippi State has done this season, and there has been more than just against Georgia times where their offense was able to come back late in football games and help score some points. Mississippi State and Georgia were in kind of similar situations. Mississippi State against Georgia in the second half, Georgia against Alabama in the second half. You got nothing to lose. You're down by multiple scores. You've got to throw the ball to win. Mississippi State found themselves in that situation. Got a couple of breaks in coverage, and sometimes that's what you need for your offense to get going. 14 seems kind of like a lot to me, and here's I'll finish with this. I love Texas A&M's front seven. I'm not sold completely on their secondary yet, guys. It's a long season. We started the season off against Notre Dame there, for Texas A&M, one of your hardest games of the season. They have no passing offense whatsoever. So, and go back and look at some of the opponents that they played. Haven't played many good passing offenses so far this season. And just judging by what we've seen in the preseason, we did a deep dive on that team. Some of their secondary players, I'm not saying they're bad, but I think that Mississippi State's going to be able to throw the ball around a little bit. And I think Mississippi State's rushing defense is so bad that I think Texas A&M is going to be able to, even though they're going to be running the football, I think they're going to be able to score kind of quickly. And so, therefore, I don't know that they eat up time like you would usually associate with running the football a lot. I think they'll be able to get chunk plays on the ground in this football game, something that Georgia doesn't have the ability to do, and they weren't able to do against Mississippi State. And guess what, guys? When you don't have a run game, guess what? It gets really hard to ice games. And that's what Georgia ran into in the second half of that game, on top of turning the ball over in the second half. Georgia can't run the ball that good, guys, and it's hard to ice a game that way. Anyway, did that one for you, Jeremiah. Thanks for watching, buddy. I like the plus 14 in that one, but
it's actually been bet up, so I can get you a plus 18 if you want Mississippi State.
Oh, well, I really like plus 18. Jeremiah, if you already bet plus 14, I mean, I kind of like that. That sounds like a possible push, with it being such a round number there. But, I could see it. I could see it happening. I think there's a path, but I don't know that I have the best read on that football game either. So take that with a grain of salt. I didn't do a bunch of research on that one. Let me just say that. All right, what else you got, Mason? Let's run through these. We got to finish this bad boy up.
I'll give you a pretty simple synopsis here. USC at Maryland. I got Maryland at +7, as long as that has not changed. And I'll have to check on that in a minute. But +7.5. I've got Maryland over, or USC at Maryland. And my reasoning here is simple. USC traveling across the country, from West Coast to East Coast. They haven't played well when they've done that this year. No team has played well going from one coast to the other. The home team has I think more than 80% has won that game and covered. So to me, that's kind of my basis for this pick, but also Maryland, the score was not as bad against Northwestern as that game indicated. There were a lot of turnovers, some weird special teams plays. Maryland looked like the better football team against Northwestern, and they ended up getting beat like 31-10. It was a weird game. They actually outgained Northwestern and still lost by 21 points. It was extremely weird, and I think that the market has kind of shown that. It's reflecting that, and then you couple that with Miller Moss, and he's had a bad few weeks. So I think that this game is kind of a get right game for Maryland. I really, looking at it, I've actually got them on the money line as well at plus 230. I feel like Maryland's a sneaky good pick here in this game. If you're giving me 2.5 times or almost 2.5 times my money, I'm going to take that in a close game and in a matchup that I think Maryland can win at home. So give me Maryland plus 7.5 against USC, and I've got them on the money line as well.
Gotcha. I don't have anything on that one. Yeah, give me one more. How many more you got left, actually?
3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 money lines.
Rattle a couple of them off.
All right, Virginia at Clemson, under 57.5. Clemson defense good. Virginia offense bad. Virginia has played a lot closer games here as of late, but I think that this one, whether it's close or not, Clemson's a 21.5 point favorite. I think that the score stays low. This one stays under 57.5. Clemson kind of burned me on that one last week, letting Wake Forest score 14 points in the first half, and then trying to play catch up, so they were scored more. But I think this week I don't see Virginia being able to score very early or very often, and I think this one stays under 57.5. I've also got Kentucky at minus 1.5 at Florida. This line flipped from when we recorded on Tuesday. It was 2 points in favor of Florida, and now it's 1.5 points in the favor of Kentucky. But I still like this play here. Just because it flipped on me doesn't mean anything. I think that Kentucky is a better program than America understands. I think that the Ole Miss win was proof of that, and I think playing Georgia close was proof of that. And it's just been spoiled by a couple of bad losses against South Carolina, which was the first SEC game of the year for that team, and I think they were still trying to find an identity on offense. And then, of course, the Vanderbilt loss, which doesn't look like that bad of a loss. I think that Vanderbilt's going to end up being, I would say, close to a really good team by the end of the year. I do feel that good about them in that program. And then I'll give you one more and turn it over to you, Mark. Iowa at Michigan State. Give me the under 39.5. It's a dirty number, but I feel like 39 is very likely here. And when you look at these defenses, and Iowa's come around on offense a pretty good bit, but nobody's talking about this Michigan State defense, and they are for real. They're one of the best in the Big Ten, and we know that Iowa is one of the best defenses in the Big Ten. Michigan State still can't score at all, so I like that. I like the play there even more because of that. And then Iowa, I feel like they're gonna have their hands full with this Michigan State team and their passing defense and those guys up front. So give me the under 39.5 there.
All right, so is that Michigan State at Iowa?
It's Iowa at Michigan State.
And what was the total again?
39.5.
39.5. Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I'm going to jump in on that one because, look, guys, Iowa does have a better offense than what they've had. They have a better rushing offense. They can't throw the ball worth the flip. Michigan State can stop the run. So this is good on good here, and it's going to be a rock fight. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Every time Michigan State's been able to do anything good on offense, they follow it with a dumb play almost immediately and nullify. I mean, I saw it whenever they played Oregon. Marched right down the field, get onto the goal line against Oregon. They're going to go up 7-0, walk away with absolutely nothing in their hands. They are abominable on offense at this point. Lots of work still to do there at Michigan State. So I'll jump on that with you. You said 39.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. And that's still under that key number of 41 there. So I definitely like that. All right. I'll give you one of them that I've got here, and kind of a similar take, to be honest with you, and in the same conference there, Michigan at Illinois, and this pick is going to seem contrary to your beliefs and what you know about these Big Ten opponents here, but I will explain. I'm taking the over 44.5, and if you would, Mason, could you maybe look and check and make sure that number's still good?
Yeah, it's still the same. That's 44 and a
Okay.
half across the
I don't
board.
think anybody's really messing with that number this week, and that's another reason why I like it a lot. I like playing lines. If I really do feel like I have an edge in a game, I don't want to just play a game because nobody's playing it for no reason. But look, Michigan's defense this season, as overall, is about 45th in the country. Okay, but rushing and passing, the rankings and yards and every metric you want to look at has been totally opposite. Michigan is number 2 against the run this season, and they're like 118th against the pass this season. Okay. Illinois can throw the football around. We just saw Illinois score a ton of points last week. Michigan, on the other hand, the strength of their offense is running the football, and they're somewhat explosive doing it. And so I think both teams are going to be able to score more than what Vegas has predicted here. I think the public's perception of these two teams is that they're Big Ten teams. We've seen Illinois play some rock fights this season. And then last week, we saw them explode on offense, produce 50 points. So I think they're multiple. They can do different things. And against this passing defense of Michigan, I think they're going to be able to have some luck. So give me the over 44.5, which I think is low in general for college football a lot of times. So give me that over, and I think that is a contrarian pick, I would imagine. And I like it.
Give me SMU minus 15.5 at Stanford. That's a lot of points, and I get that, but I really feel like 17 is kind of the number I'm feeling right here. SMU comes off a bye week, first of all. Now, they do have to travel to Stanford, but it's not quite the cross-country travel that we've seen some of these other teams have to do. But SMU here, hold on one second. Sorry, y'all. I hit my play button on my headphones, and a video started playing. It was throwing me off completely. Yeah. Anyway, so SMU here, they're coming off of a really big win against Louisville, and a few good wins really for their past 3 games. They've been playing really good football, and going up against Stanford, Stanford is still Stanford. They're not doing anything special. So I think they got 2 wins on the year. So give me SMU minus 15.5. I think that they absolutely roll Stanford, roll them up into a roll of toilet paper here, since they are the trees after all. So I like Stanford at minus 15.5. Again, I think this one's 17 or greater, something like that. And I'll go ahead and give you my other 2, unless you got to play on that, Mark.
No, go ahead.
UCF at Iowa State. Give me Iowa State, and I'm going to lay the 12.5 with them. UCF is just terrible, y'all. They are absolutely terrible. They're moving on from KJ Jefferson at quarterback. They don't have an identity. Players are just leaving the program right now. There's a mass exodus going on. They're quitting on the team. I like Iowa State in this position. I think 13 is a key number here. I think they can definitely get it by at least 13 in that one. And then my last game is Baylor at Texas Tech. I'm taking Texas Tech at minus 6.5. I think that this offense is pretty dang good for Texas Tech, and I think that they can really, under Baron Morton, score some points this week. Baylor's defense has not been what it's supposed to be under Oranda, and they really don't have anything on offense. I don't think that they can exploit this Texas Tech team the way that they would like to, or the way that some teams could. And I feel really good about Texas Tech winning by at least a touchdown in this one.
Baylor's a dumpster fire. They're going to end up having to get rid of Dave Aranda, and I was totally wrong on him. I thought he'd be a good head coach, but he's made a comedy of errors on the offensive side of the football over the last few years, running off quarterbacks that he decided all of a sudden they're not the starter anymore. I mean, it really has been a pretty bad track record as far as since he's been there. So um, yeah, that's a guy that not a lot of people talk about on the hot seat, but eventually he's going to have to either piss or get off the pot. What else you got?
That's all I got, except for the money line. So you got anything else?
I don't have any other picks against spread or totals. I'll give you guys my last money line pick here, and we've talked about it ad nauseum this week. And I already gave you my South Carolina plus 105 on the money line. I like that one just because of the fact I was going to take South Carolina plus the points, but then I'm like, well, it's only plus 1.5, so I might as well just take them on the money line because I think South Carolina can beat Oklahoma. Uh, but I'm going to take UGA on the money line, and there is a pretty good bit of value on that one. I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs against Texas on the money line. There is a path to victory this weekend for the Georgia Bulldogs, albeit it is more narrow than the one that Texas has to be able to win this game at home in Austin. Um, you know, we've talked about this game at nauseum. There's nothing else I can really talk about other than the fact that I like Georgia's wide receivers. I like Georgia's playmakers. And if Georgia can stretch the field, then look, Georgia is one of those teams that Georgia used to hate playing. I mean, Georgia is one of those teams right now. Now, is there a first round talent at wide receiver? No, but there is some really talented guys, and I think Georgia is going to be a test for this Texas defense. And I know what the numbers say this season, but not all college football schedules are created equally, and that is certainly the case between Georgia and Texas, as Texas has one of the easiest ones in the SEC so far this season. So give me UGA on the money line plus 187, and um, how sweet that one would be. We'll see what happens. What do you got?
Well, I'm in lock agreement with you on that game. I've actually got it at plus 188, so I'll do you one better, literally. But yeah, I'm in luck with you for a lot of the same reasons. I think when you look at the game, I really feel good about Georgia coming out to a strong start, and that's where I'm kind of that's what's leading me to believe that Georgia's going to put it all together. We've seen them really in just about every game, at least on offense, play well in the fourth quarter or in the second half as a whole. I just think that this week is going to be the first time that they do it in the first half as well. Also, when you go back and look at Mississippi State, like Georgia on defense did nothing. They showed absolutely nothing. It was the most vanilla game plan I've seen them play all year long. They did not want anything on film for Alabama to look at. I think that they're a different team than they were. They did not want anything on the film for Texas to look at, but I think they're a different team than they were when they faced Alabama. So to me, I think there's going to be some mixing up on the back end of the defense. I feel like Ellis Robinson gets to play a pretty good bit at cornerback for Georgia in this one. I kind of have a hunch or a conspiracy theory that Kirby did not want Ellis Robinson to play until after each player in the defensive backfield got 4 games in, because he did not want any of them to quit on the team and transfer out or anything like that. So he wanted that depth in there, and now he's like, oh, well, he's playing really good in practice, so, all of a sudden he's ready to play. Not saying he starts or anything like that, but a couple of bad plays, and I think you see him take the reins and not look back for the rest of the season. On the offensive side of the football, my catalyst or I think the catalyst for the offense is Trevor Etienne. I think we need a really big game out of him. But sort of a dark horse for this football game is Anthony Evans. We've seen him get more involved as a pass catcher for this program. We know he's elite as a punt returner, but I think he ends up catching a touchdown in this game and puts one on film where nobody's really seen them do that yet. So I like Anthony Evans in that one, and Georgia on the money line. I mentioned it earlier, kind of led you guys to this one, but Nebraska at plus 200 over Indiana. Give me that. I think that the Nebraska defense is for real. They're better than any defense that Indiana has faced this year by far, and they're disruptive. Like they can take a game over when they need to. You go back to that Rutgers game, and Rutgers is a pretty good team. Rutgers blocked 2 punts in that game. Like you're supposed to score a touchdown when you block a punt. Or kick a field goal, and they did neither of those things. They ended up with 0 points on 2 block punts. That defense for Nebraska is for real. Very tough to score against. I think that Indiana will score, but I feel like they keep it in the 20s at least. And then on the flip side, you look at Nebraska. They've got really good receivers. I don't know what we're going to get out of Dylan Raiola. I totally understand that, but going against Indiana's DBs are small and they're very, very undersized in the matchups against Nebraska's wide receivers. So I think that they could have a little bit of a field day there on the deep ball. It's going to be a close game, but I think it's one that Nebraska can definitely win. So if you're going to give me plus 200 in that game, I'm going to take that. And then my last play, I took Tennessee against the spread. I'm going to take them on the money line as well. I think that Tennessee playing at home is a big part of my reasoning and pick behind this game. If this was a neutral site, I still have it as a pick 'em. So if you're telling me I get plus money on choosing or on flipping a coin, essentially, in this football game, and you're going to give me the home team, I'm going to take that. I feel like it's just a smart play. This game could go either way, but when we're talking about money line bets, you really have to look at plus money and what the value is of the bet. You're not necessarily picking the game and trying to figure out which way it goes. Now, you want to make smart bets, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's a lot of plus value here where I'm being given like 3 points here in a sense and plus money and all that. We'll see how that one goes, but I feel like I'm flipping a coin here, and I'm going to take that chance at plus 135 here.
Yeah, and just real quick, I don't have any more picks. I've given all mine out. My final thoughts on this Georgia Texas thing. I just got to get this out of my head. I've watched tons of breakdowns on this game. I've watched tons of betting shows on this game. Nobody that I'm watching is talking about what we're talking about, Mason. I mean, and I'm just being honest. Nobody, and maybe they did on Cover 3 today. I don't know. I didn't listen to the Locks pod. I mean, really, the only person you can listen to on there and actually play their locks is Bud Elliott. I mean, the rest of them are just not doing very well as far as their picks most of the time. But my point is, nobody's actually talking about the matchups in the Georgia Texas game. I heard a whole lot today about, well, look what Georgia did against Mississippi State, and look what Texas did against Mississippi State. All right, well, let's look at it. Georgia was up 27-10 at halftime against Mississippi State. Texas was up 14-6. So is Georgia a better football team? They were up big at halftime. And with that being said, Texas goes into halftime still in defense mode here. Georgia goes into halftime getting ready for Texas next week. So, I just, every game is not created equal because you're not playing all these games on the same weekend. You're not the same team with the same schedule on the same weekend. And so a lot of the things that I heard about this weekend when this game was talked about was circumstantial stuff that really didn't have anything to do with the matchups on the field. And Georgia, if you go look at the numbers, we did this breakdown this week. Georgia is more explosive in the passing game than Texas has been this season. Y'all say what you want to say. The numbers are what they are. They don't lie. These numbers are what they are. Georgia's been more explosive in the passing game than Texas has, and Georgia is 10 times more explosive in general on offense than anything that Texas has faced this season. So, just kind of my last, probably my last dying words there as this weekend comes in. Texas might kick Georgia's ass. I don't know. It's college football, but you got to look at the matchups. My gut has been the same now for several days in a row. I think Georgia's got a real clear path here. Now, albeit maybe only 1 or 2 paths, but they've got a clear path to get it done. It's going to be a really exciting weekend. I can't wait to watch these games. And thank you all so much for watching. If you joined in live, if you're watching this later, we appreciate it all the same. Y'all please hit the thumbs up. comment your picks of the week. I'd love to see them before we get going on Saturday. We've still got a couple of days to get these picks in. Y'all pick them smart. Good luck this weekend. I hope y'all win a bunch of money. Come back next week on the Thursday show, or you don't have to wait that long. You can come join us for the overreaction show that'll be after the games on Saturday night. We've got a show on Sunday. We've got a show on Tuesday. We got a show on Thursday. Hit the subscribe button so that you will be notified when all that stuff comes out. Thank y'all so much for watching. I appreciate it. Good luck this weekend, and talk to you Saturday night for the overreaction show.